You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Holt.
Welcome back to the world-famous Shoe In Show podcast.
Only famous amongst ourselves.
Famous in our own minds.
That's right.
But that's famous enough.
That is all we need, right?
Folks, as always, we are bringing some of the industry leaders to our table to talk to them about things impacting the footwear business.
Yep.
I want to thank Jasmine for all her hard work during Effin' Platform, walking up and down the aisles.
Gosh.
Yes.
Her eyes are probably rolling to the back of her head. She's seen so many products. You know, her feet are probably swollen from we sent her out so many places, walking miles and miles to get all these interviews. So thank you very much for that. Matt, my fearless co-host, is with me.
What's up, brother?
And we've brought to the table one of the rising stars of the industry. Because he's so focused on the business side.
That's right.
You know, we have a lot of folks who go out there and do great marketing and go out there and do great sales. But at the end of the day, it's all about the back room and it's all about the product.
Yep.
And so who we got today?
We got Josue Solano, President and Chief Operating Officer of BBC International. What's up? He also probably has the world's most mispronounced first name in our industry. The poor guy takes it like a champ. He's not Jose. He's not Josua. He is Josue.
Josue.
Josue. I get Josue a lot too. Let's not forget that one. That's the one I like the most.
Okay, that's terrible.
You like that the most?
So Josue.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
here. And we should say Josue.
Josue.
Just like Jose with a sway. That's it.
Josue
with a swagger.
So Josue.
Andy.
There's a lot going on right now in our industry. You guys specialize in kid shoes, one of the world's largest companies in kid shoes. Mm-hmm. I think you predominantly still make a lot of those shoes in China.
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening right now. What are you guys seeing in terms of production in China that's impacting costing, impacting supply chains, all those kind of things? I'm just going to tee it up and let you –
Boom, jump right into it.
Jump right in.
Well, thanks for the intro. We have a lot of source factories in China that we do business with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're under a lot of pressure, some handling it better than others. But there's a lot of things that are going on. First and foremost, I think everybody's aware that last year the government tightened some of the policies on some of the material suppliers because they're very concerned about sustainability. So that put a lot of pressure on those material suppliers to change the way they process the materials. A lot of those material suppliers ended up going out of business. And that, in turn, put some pressure on our factories, which raised costs. Some of the factories that were doing business with better material suppliers didn't face that as much, but for the majority of them, that was a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Of course, the change in the valuation of the RMB is really a big factor. It's fluctuating more and more over the past couple of years. And, again, we have source factories that hedge their bets, and they're large enough to be able to do that. But then you have factories that just kind of ride the wave. So they'll quote a price, the valuation will change, and can get them into some trouble sometimes.
I mean, business loves certainty, and it's such an uncertain time for all business, all footwear businesses in particular, with e-com and all that kind of stuff. But when your factory can't drive certainty just based on currency fluctuations, that's got to be challenging.
It is challenging, and it's something that's outside of their control to some degree.
Right.
And, when you're in business with a factory, you're partners.
Right.
If they fail, if you can't find a way to help them be successful and see the future, then you're heading down a bad path yourself.
Right.
So those are two major factors that are happening out there. The third thing that's happening is the government is also putting a lot of pressure on factories as it relates to social insurances.
Right.
So there are those 5 insurances that factories are obligated to give to their employees, and as those requirements go up, we can kind of view those almost like a minimum wage increase here in the United States.
Right.
So the cost of labor is also being driven up, and as a result, that ends up in the cost of your goods.
Let's dive into that a little bit, because I think our listeners may not understand what those 5 insurances are. You're talking Social Security, their version of Social Security, health insurance, maternity leave.
Yes.
What are some? There are a couple others that make up the 5.
So there's a housing allowance.
Yeah.
The government asked them to contribute into a housing allowance. Most people there really can't afford to really buy a house long term.
Right.
So the thing about those insurance issues is that a lot of the workers don't really want to pay into it because they don't always reap the benefits of them.
Right.
They'd rather get all of the money in their paychecks. So the factories are constantly battling with the employees. But just like here, we have to pay into Social Security. We have to pay into all of these government services, and they just get deducted out of our
But that's
expenses.
been socialized here and people want to take kind of the Western view of what benefits are and what wages are, and then lay that on top of a different culture and wonder why there's 100% participation from the factories because their employees don't want to pay into this program because those haven't been socialized like they have been here. So I think that's part of like the disconnect between our expectations and their culture, right?
Right, and actually the Chinese government is driving that and trying to be more consistent region to region, province to province.
Right.
So, some factories are doing it, some are not, and obviously we have to monitor that very, very closely to make sure they're abiding by the local laws. But it's just a very interesting thing when you go into a new factory to see what they have going on, to see if they could be a good resource for you. You have to now start studying how they're behaving in these areas to really make sure if they can be a good partner for you or not.
But you're saying now it's getting enforced by the government because in the past we all know they set the standard and then factories, some of them fudge a little bit on the numbers. A government official will come in and call them out on it, and then they'll work out a deal and say, we'll raise our standards over a couple of years. I can't do it right now because of costing, pricing, et cetera. But what you're saying is it's becoming tighter. Those things of the past are going away, and the government's saying, actually, nope, you got to do this now.
Yes.
There's no waiting. We need full compliance.
Yeah. In my view, yes.
Yeah.
And based on some of the people that I've been speaking to in China on my trips, that's some of the feedback that the factory owners are giving me. I think it's a good thing.
Yep.
Obviously, I think sometimes, even though it may be uncomfortable for the employee, I think doing that correctly over the long term is probably good for them. But anyway, on the short-term basis, it does put a lot of pressure on prices, and we feel that here in the United States.
Well, let's face it, you guys also import in children's footwear. It's highly regulated relative to other types of shoes. You have, it starts with your fearless leader, Bob Campbell, have a commitment to ensuring you have safe products. You're meeting both the expectations of your customers as well as the law, federal and state. And so, these are all you having to kind of manage that expectation on this end, on the U.S. side, with this changing dynamic on the China side or wherever your factories are located. And there's a lot of conflict right there. And I don't know how you do it, but but you're doing the Lord's work, and it's just it's tough. It's tough business,
Well, we want to make products that are safe for the consumer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the North Star for us. But yeah, testing costs and compliance, that's just another factor that's really driving cost of goods to go up as well. And the labs are not reducing their testing fees; they're increasing their testing fees. So we're an international business, so we're shipping not only to the United States, but we're in 120 countries, and every country has a different law, legislation, a different point of view on how aggressive to be about product safety. So when we have a product that's shipping on a global basis, we have to be compliant in all areas for those brands and for those licenses.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
And you guys have a whole team to deal with that. I mean, we've been down to your headquarters and met with several of your experts. You've got folks on staff that have been doing this for many years.
They're very active.
But when you're looking at a portfolio of 120 different countries, do you rely a lot on your customs broken people to make sure that they're labeling it correctly, and then are you running it all in house, or are you using any service providers or testing labs?
FDRA.
How do you?
FDRA.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but what are the resources you use to make sure? Because I'll tell you this: there's a lot of brands out there who only thought they would only sell in the U.S. Right? Then all of a sudden, e-commerce comes along, and you're selling in Turkey, and then somebody in your compliance back room goes, guys. We just sold in Turkey. I'm not sure if we labeled it right, if the testing's right, et cetera. So, how do you look at your program to make sure that it's
Actually, it is kind of funny, but the answer is organization like the FDRA. I mean, when I joined BBC 13 years ago, and in 2008, when all of this stuff started surfacing to the top, I had no idea what was going on. And we've always been a part of the FDRA, and I went out to the conference out in California, and I started learning about duties and labeling laws and then compliance. And we really partnered together back in 2008 along with other distributors and retailers and kind of talked about it, kind of laid the foundation for what was right, what was wrong. And that even extended globally. I mean, even though this is Footwear Distributors and Retailers of America, you guys have a global footprint, and and that helps us. And whenever we're going into a new country, this is our first stop. And then beyond that, it's our lab partners.
Right.
You know, our lab partners do have a wealth of information globally, and we rely on them to give us information. We've kind of pulled the two together. We speak to our customers in those markets, and it all kind of comes together.
Right. Let's wind the clocks back. You said you've been at BBC International for 13 years. But where were you before that? What's your shoe story? How did you get involved in this crazy industry that we all love?
So I wanted to be a hospital administrator, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Boring. Actually, that's actually pretty exciting. What am I talking about?
Beep, 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 beep.
Footwear.
And I ended up right out of undergrad going to Payless Shoe Source to work because they had an MBA program where they would pay for my MBA, which I needed to be a hospital
Pack
administrator.
your bags
There
for
you
Topeka.
go.
Here we
That's
go.
right, Topeka or bust. And, things were going well there. I worked there for 5 years, and they kind of kept promoting me and moving me to different divisions. I thought, this is kind of interesting. And it was kind of like a hospital, a little bit of an insane asylum there.
Oh,
and I enjoyed it. Anyway, got my master's program and then got an offer to move to sunny Florida, where I could work as a branded footwear buyer
And pay
for
no
the
state
Sports
income
Authority.
tax.
Yeah, so I joined the Sports Authority, worked there for 5 years, and when I was at Payless, Bob and Don, the owners of BBC, would come and sell to me as a buyer.
Right.
When the Sports Authority made its merger up in Denver, I chose to stay in Florida, knocked on their door, and it's been a marriage made in heaven.
That's awesome.
It's been a great path. So I've been with BBC for the past 13 years. And
That's
it's
awesome.
been a great career.
That's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the changes you've seen then over the past 13 years. We're talking about the costing issues. Those things ebb and flow, and we're in a tight spot right now. But as you said, compliance standards are becoming more strict and should be. Mm-hmm. What do you see on like the testing side that's really over the last couple of years that kind of raised some red flags of saying, okay, we got to get a little bit better at doing these things? Is it Prop 65 that's keeping you up at night? Is it state laws? Is it global laws? Like in your supply chain, as you look at it, what's shifted and changed that where you have to be a little bit better and a little bit more in tune with what's happening?
Well, back in 2008 with the CPSI Improvement Act, it was pure chaos.
Yeah.
Retailers and distributors, we're all trying to figure out kind of, what the lowest common denominator was, what we needed to do just to comply. And frankly, the U.S. government was trying to figure it out too. The law came out, but how they were going to regulate it wasn't established. So that took a good 4 to 5 years until that really stabilized.
Right.
And then the Prop 65 stuff out in California started propping up. No pun intended. And
Nice work.
and then that became the focus. And it's just kind of, I think over the past few years, it's actually settled.
Yeah.
For the most part, from a chemical compliance perspective in the United States, it's been relatively stable. The most recent things that have happened is some of the new legislation at the state level. So now we have the federal government, and then we had California pop in, and now we have other states coming in with Washington, Vermont, Oregon. So now they have these reporting websites and they're asking public companies to report in, and that's kind of been a bit of the disruptor over the past 2 to 3 years, but that's starting to stabilize now.
Yeah.
I think that in my tenure at BBC, the biggest change that I've seen has really happened with the consumer and the way that they shop and the way that we service the consumer. That's really been the most interesting wave that we've been riding.
Right.
13 years ago, everything was first cost, private label, then it shifted over the past 6 years to who has the best brands, what are the A, B, and C brands.
Right.
And now it's shifting more and more to online. Everybody's talking about how the consumer's shopping, and that's affecting the retailers because now the retailers have to have more breadth. So they're not going narrow and deep anymore. They want to show more colors because they're competing with the .com revolution. So that's why I love this industry.
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited to be here because whether it's compliance, whether it's pricing, sourcing, chasing this crazy consumer, it's a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun.
How are you guys working with your retail partners to identify those sea changes happening at the consumer level and then working as a partnership to make sure that you're capitalizing on those things? Is it getting the feedback on the development and design of new types and what they need? I mean, how are you guys kind of navigating those waters with your partners?
The past 2 years, the retailers have just been trying to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. They're kind of fighting this movement to .com. because they've got all of these fixed expenses at the retail level. They still got to turn on the light, to pay the light bill. They still have to open the doors. They have to pay the associates. So they've been trying to figure out, how to properly account for traffic that their brick and mortar or the volume or revenue that's being driven online affects their brick and mortar.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I think everybody just threw their hands up in the air and said, let's stop worrying about it and let's just do it, because that's where the consumer's shopping.
Right.
Zappos has changed our entire industry. Amazon has changed our entire industry. It hasn't really been difficult. As they've started to figure it out, as we've helped them figure it out, we as a company have just made sure to stay flexible enough that if their new model is dropship, that we have a warehouse where we can fulfill them on a dropship basis.
Right.
So it's our job as a provider to be flexible so that we can give our retailers and our retail partners whatever they need. And it's the companies that do that best that are going to really win.
Yeah, and that's got to start with Bob, right? He sets the tone. He is an unbelievable leader. We've had him on this program before.
Yes.
He's I said at the time there's a Mount Rushmore of footwear icons. He would be right up there, right?
Yes.
So to me, talk to me about working for him, the inspiration that he is, and how he empowers you to adapt to these changes you just articulated.
Well, Bob's the reason I came to the company. I worked first 10 years of my career in corporate America, and I felt like a role player. Did a good job, but I was a piece of a larger puzzle.
Right.
And I really wanted to come to a company like BBC that's really entrepreneurial in spirit.
Right.
And, Bob is always focused on the customer first. And that's the one thing that he's taught me.
Yeah.
And so, I sit right next to him. He's absolutely an inspiration. His energy level, the way he looks at business.
Unbelievable.
It's just incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
Very big picture. Let's move quickly. Let's move strategically. I mean, I couldn't have a better mentor in Bob Campbell.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we all feel that way, right? And I don't interact with him nearly as much as you do. So it's he's always been an inspiration for us. So what's the future for BBC as you look forward, as you think about the strategy that Bob's laid out there and this changing consumer and all that kind of stuff? What's the future for you guys and what's in store?
So about 5 years ago, we said to ourselves, we have to have the any model.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared to service our customers in any way they want to shop. And that's direct to retailer, business to business, and also direct to consumer. So we've really been working on that. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, we're continuing to focus on our key brands that we've had for 16, 20 years with our licensing partners. And we're even going beyond that. And we're looking for brands that we own that we're looking to own in-house, because that's how we feel we're going to really drive long-term value for the company.
That's really cool. Are you going to do anything in adult footwear space? Or?
Yeah, about four years ago.
Oh, we got an announcement.
Breaking news, people.
Well, you should already know this, but 4 years ago we bought Robert Wayne Footwear.
Yeah,
it's a men's footwear company. And
but many people don't know that.
They don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've been developing that. We've got a booth right here, Fifth Avenue, here at the show, and it's been a lot of fun to develop that. So our next venture has really been to go from kids to men's.
Right.
It's a little bit less fast than women's.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great. We now have a great group of factories overseas that are making beautiful product. I'm wearing some of our custom-made, handmade Italian shoes right now.
Get a picture of that and post it up on our Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been a lot of fun. And actually, even though we're known as a kids company, if you really break down the percent of our adult business that we do in the brands that we do, it's a a lot larger than you think.
Really? That's interesting. That's really
Very
interesting.
Yeah. Always learn something
Jinx. We said the same thing twice in a row. We've hung out too much.
It's true. I think we just gonged ourselves.
That's right.
That's
I love the sound effects, guys.
I don't know where they're
That's
coming
all
from.
we have. It's all a flash in the pan. It's all smoke and mirrors on this show. So what else are you seeing in the industry in terms of, one thing when you first started talking about the material suppliers consolidation and people going out of business, I personally think it's a great thing. If you're not a legit material supplier supplying compliant materials, quality materials, you shouldn't be in the business to begin with, because it's hard enough as it is to put it together, a finished product with the right materials. But what are you seeing in terms of innovation, in terms of materials that are out there? I mean, certainly the consumer is wanting things faster, quicker at their door in 2 days, but they also want different colorways and different patterns and all that. How hard is it to keep up with that kind of information and that kind of demand, that product demand that's coming in? Are you seeing your factories having to shift a little bit in terms of product runs, like more runs, less SKUs as part of the as part of the package, or what?
That's what they would want.
Right.
But unfortunately, with everything happening with fast fashion, it's actually going the other way.
Okay.
Which is, again, putting more pressure on the factories. Buyers are buying less volume, more styles. That's what they want. Right. They want us as vendors to take a position on inventory. They want to come in and have, a buffet of products that they can choose from. They want to test. They want you to carry the inventory, and then they want to be able to splash the colors in their stores. That's really what they want.
So that's the depth and breadth you talked about,
yes,
right?
all of that is counterintuitive to a factory who makes money when he has long production lines.
Exactly.
So it's a very interesting dynamic, and again, it's our job to bridge that gap. Keep our partners successful on the sourcing side, but still provide the value that our customers want. And in terms of materials, there's a lot going on. It's actually a very exciting time with material. It is exciting. There's been a lot of development around materials, just outside of leathers, beyond leathers, I should say. Materials are, the game is rising. We're able to make a lot more interesting products and have a lot more fun with our shoes because of the development that's happening with materials. So, of course, the newer the material, the cooler it is, the more expensive it is, and you have to find that balance. And at BBC, we have a wide range of brands, low, medium, high in terms of price points. So we're involved with all that.
Where are your sourcing offices located in China? I've been to the one, this was a long time ago, but that was in Dongguan, in that region. Are you still there? Kind of what's your sourcing, footprint look like overseas?
So our main office is in Chenzhou. That's where we have our design and our development, our R&D. And
Chenzhou?
Yes, Chenzhou.
Where is that in China?
Which province?
It's in the Fujian province.
Okay,
gotcha.
Fujian.
Yeah. So we moved from Dongguan up there. We also have an office in Wenzhou, which is where a lot of our men's product is made. We moved there about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's really where the core of our business is. And then we have factories. We have a few in Shanghai, just north of Shanghai. It's kind of spread out, but that's really where we are.
Gotcha.
Do you still have to be in the factory a lot, making sure that you're on the line talking to them about, fashion issues, compliance issues? Because there seems to be some people who have this idea that they can put in an order from the U.S. and it's just going to magically appear exactly like they like it when it ships over, right? You still got to be there a lot, right? You still got to be making those trips, making those calls, having those conversations.
I think so. I mean, look, nobody's going to do it as well as yourself. Right. Nobody's going to paint your house as well as you're going to paint your house. And if you really want, for BBC as a supplier, we take that very seriously. We want the products that we sell to our customers and that we ship to our customers to be exactly what they're expecting. So because of that, yes, we're over there a lot. Now, we have an army of QC people over there that are watching our factories. But me personally, when I go, I'm actually in the factories. I'm looking at cartons. I'm in the warehouse. And I'm having tea with the factory owner to talk about some of these macroeconomic issues that we're talking about to make sure that they're not, overbooking their factories when we have production there, all of those things.
Right.
So, yeah, we're over in China a lot.
Tea. He's having tea.
Having a lot of tea.
Gombe, the tea.
A lot of tea, a lot of fruit. Long sessions, but important sessions.
My advice is anything that's lettuce wrapped, you probably shouldn't eat that in China. Just a historical reference.
That's a whole different story.
Just let you know.
Thanks,
you didn't know.
Where were you on my first trip?
Well,
you should have told me
this was his first trip.
That was my first trip, and guess what? The guy to my left didn't say anything to me either. All right?
He spun the lazy Susan your way.
He did.
It's like pig's blood on its way to you, my friend.
That did happen.
Yeah.
I did eat some pig's blood.
Then we were at the Payless office. It all goes back to Topeka.
Yeah,
we were at the
exactly.
Payless office the next day.
Full circle.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, what else are you seeing out there that people should keep front of mind that you see that's changing as you walk around and see different things? What do you think about the state of the industry right now? We talked about the costing. Is the industry in a good spot? Are we starting to get to the point where we understand the consumer a bit better and we're delivering that product that they want?
My sense is that consumer confidence is coming back.
Yep.
I think people have a little bit more money in their pockets.
Yep.
And I think that this disposable fashion that we're going through right now is a good thing. I mean, the young generation, when they're on their social media, they don't want to be seen in two pictures wearing the same thing.
Right.
And that's driving them to buy more. And we benefit from that.
I don't want to be seen in any pictures wearing anything. So.
What?
No pictures. I don't want to be in any pictures.
That didn't come
Houston,
out right.
Can we edit that out, please?
My goodness.
Keep it in.
Goodness.
Keep it in.
Now we're going to label this episode mature.
right.
It went from T to somewhere completely different.
I think Matt took a left-hand turn there.
I know. But I do think you're right. I think overall our economy is in a good spot. We've seen a lot of volatility in the stock market. But, when we were looking at the volatility, I was telling Matt the other day, I was like, it's all good stuff that's causing the volatility. Sure. It's all solid fundamentals. People are a little bit concerned that interest rates are going up because the money can't be free anymore, right?
Yeah,
so that's fine.
Run.
But it's everything's fundamental. We got a little bit more money in our pocket, and we have forward-thinking people like yourself trying to figure out how you make the product people actually want to buy.
But I think the city industry is great. I'm very encouraged by it. I think we've got a new young generation coming up that really understands business.
Yeah.
It's interesting to be in this environment where we are here. I'm always amazed at how many new brands I see popping up.
Tell me about it.
And it's very interesting to look at that. And I think men are interested in what they're wearing on their feet more than ever, as well as the apparel. I didn't see that 6-7 years ago. I'm seeing a lot more of that now. So it's an exciting time, and our kids' business is booming with all of the brands that we have and all the excitement that we have that we'll be able to inject into our products. So I couldn't be more excited to be in the industry right now. I'm glad I didn't become a hospital administrator.
I'm jacked up.
Love it.
I'm jacked up. Beep, 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 beep. At this point in the show, this is where we have the fun episode, and we bring Jasmine in to help us make sure that we're fashionable. How are you?
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of the what you got, what you getting.
All right, baby, love it.
While Josue is with us, if you haven't heard, we do a segment of what you got, what you getting, and that's when you tell the audience what you're wearing on your feet today and what you're planning on getting in the near future.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So Andy, you go first. What you got?
All right. So I'm wearing my Fry slip-ons here that I've been wearing I've been wearing it the whole time.
For like 2 weeks, man.
I know. Because I'm lazy. They slip on, they slip off. What do you want from me?
What you going to get?
No laces.
Do not say Adidas Boost.
I'm not going to say Adidas Boots. I've been saying it for a while, but I am going to get the Allbirds.
Yeah.
I am going to get, because I do think the style is exactly right. And I think from everybody's, from what they said, super comfortable.
Yep.
And I'm looking for comfort.
Cool. So, Josue, what you got?
I got what Andy should got. Yeah. This is what you should be wearing. I'm sporting a new pair of Robert Wayne shoes that are handmade in Italy.
Right on.
They're brown burnished. They've been hand treated all the way, hand built. They're leather lined. They're super comfortable.
Are you a salesperson or you do operations?
I'm just telling you what I'm wearing, and that's what I'm wearing.
Even the soles of them are super, super clean, super nice. I love them.
Absolutely beautiful.
Don't say you're going to get a second pair when we say what you getting.
Get.
I'm going to stick on this line. This brand's amazing, and I'd like to invite you guys to come down and.
He's got nowhere else to go. He can't say he's going to get some wheelies or some good shoes, right?
That's right. That's right.
Jasmine, what you got?
So I'm still rocking my Wild Diva heels, and I think Drake has a new collaboration with Nike, a pair of retro 8s, and they come in a white and gold pair and a black and gold pair, and I really like those because I am a person who doesn't like to be caught in the picture with the same thing twice.
There you go.
There you go.
Here's my advice, Jasmine. Wear different shoes, right? You can wear the white and the black and the gold and the other color.
Right.
That way you're never caught. And then you can switch it the next day.
Yeah, so I'm just going by both.
Don't take any fashion advice from Andy. You look good.
I thought we were friends.
See, I have to let him down
no
easy.
way.
Josue, no way.
Uh-uh.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to dress you up in a pair of shoes. Come on down to our booth, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll do that for
Look
sure.
at that.
Andy, I look great in what you have on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Matt?
I'm
What you got?
shoeless because Josue is going to hook me up some That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. I'm wearing socks. I'm getting Robert Wayne's handmade in Italy.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for listening to the Shoe and Show episode. We really want to thank Josue for coming on today
Thanks
from
for having
BBC
me, guys.
International.
Yeah, it was awesome.
A lot
To
of
really
fun.
go through some very important things that are happening in
Pay
terms of
attention,
costing.
people. Pay attention.
I mean, especially when you're trying to hit that correct price point at retail to hit those, to hit the people, you got to get it right from the start.
Yep.
It just doesn't magically happen. You got to put the work in.
Josue's not a magical shoe fairy.
And we thank Josue for his involvement with FDRA board.
Yes.
He's also our product safety committee chairman,
Yep.
Who's helping drive a lot of change in the industry wide. Getting people together, collaborating. That's what FDRA is all about, is bringing all the brands together, sitting around the table, saying we all have a common challenge. Let's find out a way to collectively solve that challenge. So
Yep.
thanks for that. Folks, as always, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. It's Shoe and Show. You can go to our website, shoeandshow.com, and find the list of all the great guests that we've had. If you are downloading this podcast off iTunes, definitely please rate us.
Rate us.
So we can go up in the ratings.
5-star.
That's right. And
if you I'll put it this way: if you put Robert Wayne in your rating, we'll send you a shoes.com gift card.
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
Boom.
love it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
And you have to buy Robert Wayne shoes.
Yes.
Required.
Many.
Required. And as always, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, if you're having a challenge and you want to have a guest come on and talk about it, if you yourself want to be interviewed and grilled mercilessly on our show, we will have you on and we will make that happen. But anyway, until next time, for Matt, for Jasmine, for Josue,
Thank you.
this is Andy Polk, and Shoe-In is out.
Shoe-In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.